They are under the vigilant eye of the French police.
To be honest, we've been criticized a lot in the past. There's a lot of negative media against us. But all in all, I have to say, as a policeman, I've seen the guys' input towards the World Cup has been immense. And I'm sure there will be a positive image after this because the training we have received is top class.
The Minister of Police walks around in his football jersey with a big smile to reassure the population. But he knows his manpower is limited. He has already called up 10,000 reserves to reinforce the 40,000 police currently in action. To bring security to this World Cup, all the goodwill and work, of course, are welcome. Private security companies are also being called in to give a hand. Shar and Mark work with one private company created by an ex-policeman who today is in the reserves. Collaboration among the private sectors, volunteers and the police is crucial.
I know that we're talking around about 4 security officers to every 1 policeman in South Africa. So the private sector is a large number of personnel that the police do not have.
Take pictures of my hands.
That is legal.
It's not legal.
It's legal.
It's not legal. What is legal? What do you know about legal? Is what you're doing illegal?
You should have banged your face, man.
Come here and talk.
Alan's company makes regular arrests. Called a citizen's arrest, the Criminal Procedures Act authorizes any citizen to intercept a criminal. One must just call the police immediately thereafter. This man has just stolen several manhole covers. He'll spend the weekend in prison.
The petty theft leads on to the more serious crimes. So if you're not addressing the smaller issues, the bigger issues automatically come along. So it's a zero tolerance approach.
Other private companies are jumping on the bandwagon. Darren specializes in armored vehicles.
There is a big demand in the 2010 World Cup. South Africa doesn't have enough armoured vehicles to provide for a big influx of armoured vehicles. So we at the moment are working on a solution where we can rapidly armour vehicles within a day.
To convince us, he takes us to the shooting range. Just an hour's drive from Johannesburg, Darren brings many of his clients here. An impressive demonstration, he says, is more powerful than a long discussion.
Imagine this was your head. This is what your head would look like after a bullet has been fired through this window at you. Armoured vehicles, different story. Armoured product, different story. Look at this. No penetration whatsoever. Same amount of shots have been fired. This guy's maybe lost a bit of hair, but he's fine. Hasn't been touched. Perfectly safe.
With the minimum price tag of 25,000 euros per car, the cost far exceeds the annual salary of a South African doctor. VIPs coming to the World Cup, however, may find it a small price to pay for their security. Meanwhile, the Angels continue to build themselves up. Invited by the police, Charles is putting together a new group in Gordons Bay, because during the World Cup, the police will be working elsewhere.
I beg you, do not let this opportunity go by without at least trying it.
Far from the glamour of the stadiums, the Guardian Angels will continue their patrols. While the tourists will be well protected, the residents of the suburbs fear they may be forgotten.
Well, I'm now joined down the line from Capetown by our correspondent Eva Gilliam. Thank you very much indeed for being with us, Eva, and thanks for that report. Now, first of all, the issue of community watch is fairly widespread in South Africa. Indeed, the Guardian Angels are not alone. Just explain to us a little bit about how that works.
Yes, well, Community Watch and Community Crime Watch is on the rise in South Africa because people are very frustrated with the response time of police and their inability to capture many criminals. So communities are taking it upon themselves to gather information about crime that's happening in their area, communicate with each other via radio, telephone, and respond very rapidly to break-ins, to other crime that happens in their neighborhood. This way they're able to catch criminals much more quickly, particularly in areas that border high crime areas such as townships and other poverty-stricken areas where criminals can disappear very quickly. So communities are gathering together to fight the crime in all areas of the country, and they're having quite high success rates.
Now, of course, we've heard also about security firms going so far as to rent armoured vehicles. Isn't that rather over the top?
Well, the police minister himself thought it was quite over the top. However, the reality is there are many hijackings in South Africa, one of the major criminal activities that aren't necessarily a part of the national statistics. So armoring your vehicle is one opportunity that VIPs will have because the cost is very high. The cost is around 25,000 euros just to armor one vehicle. But VIPs, such as the African heads of states who will be coming, heads of states from all over the world, as a matter of fact, will most likely go with this option. However, for your average tourist, it's just not going to be a possibility.
Now, one of the main fears, of course, looking ahead to the World Cup period is of xenophobic violence. What is your take on that? How important a phenomenon do you think that's likely to be?
Well, as we know, since 2008, xenophobic attacks in South Africa have happened. In 2008, it was quite a large aggression, and since then there have been many threats against individuals and groups, mostly refugees from the Central and Southern African area who've come to South Africa over a longer period of time. South Africans think they've been taking jobs, etc. However, we don't really think it's going to be a problem during the World Cup. Of the 350,000 visitors that South Africa is expecting, only 10 to 15,000 are thought to be from Africa, and it's thought that most of those will return home afterwards. However, after the World Cup, there is a threat of xenophobic violence again. There have been threats that many people say they've been threatened, saying that after the World Cup, you better watch your back. We're coming after you. However, the authorities, while they've heard this, they haven't taken concrete actions at this point to curb any of that violence.
Eva Gideon, thank you very much indeed for being with us and for those answers. Thanks very much as well for that report. That's all we've got time for on the programme, but we'll be back, of course, next week with another edition of Reporters. In the meantime, do stay with us in just a few moments, all the very latest international headlines.